myth or reality. To be successful, you have to love it. You have to want to do hospitality. You have to want to have that connection with guests. Maybe you can't be there every time to welcome them into your place, but you want to make them feel welcomed and, like you said, create that experience for them. That's what'll make you successful.
So the biggest thing people get in and then don't realize is completely wrong.
I think one of the big things that is a myth is passive income. And progressively over time, the market's just gotten, you have to be a little bit more careful, think about the business, run the calculations, watch your expenses. It's important to have a great listing, to write well, to have good photos. Those used to be cheat codes back in the day. You just take professional photos and you automatically get huge occupancy gains. Not anymore. Episode 3. We're going to talk about vacation rental, myths, and reality. What it seems like starting out and what actually happens. We're also going to look back at history and see how that's changed over time, and then talk about what we think is going to happen in the future.
We've seen a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, we've seen a lot. And you in particular have experienced a lot because you've been, the whole time we've been running OwnerRez, you and your wife have been running a separate business that's a management business. And it's actually become sort of a funny catchphrase around OwnerRez, WWSRD, what would Shenrent do? As we think about what would a property manager at a certain size be looking for in the product that they're using.
Yeah, shout out to my wife, Katie, who begrudgingly runs Shenrent. Shenrent stands for Shenandoah Rentals. I started as our couple of properties, and then Chris and I combined, and then some other owners, and just a long progression of events, and it's capped out at about 30, 35 properties. And then some owners have left and come back. But so yeah, Shenrent, what would Shenrent do? And over the years, we've kind of learned it all and experienced it all, and no doubt that has made OwnerRez much more solid, deeper, robust product than it would have been on its own. In fact, we now have internally in the company something called the Dog Fooders Group, which is other OwnerRezers internally, OwnerRez employees who also have their own Airbnbs or even small property management shops. And so they're all part of this experiment together. And of course, for those of you who don't know, the term dog fooding in the software industry means to use your own product for your own business, your own life in some way, and so that you experience every day what's right and wrong with it, how it helps you, which directly feeds back into what you should change in the product. Comes from is it eat your own dog food?
Eat your own dog food
is
yep.
The original expression a long time ago. Sounds like a Mark Andreessen quote, but I'm not sure.
Something there, yeah, that or even earlier.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about all the things that we know and then have learned and then learned again, or the industry changed over the years. So what would you say the biggest myth is, or the biggest thing people get in and then don't realize is completely wrong?
I think one of the big things that is a myth is passive income. Especially because it used to be true. It used to be true back in the day, and progressively over time, the market's just gotten more saturated, and you have to be, it's not just a cheat code like it used to be. You have to be a little bit more careful, think about the business, run the calculations, watch your expenses, but also have a really great property. That's the other thing that we see. It makes a difference if your property stands out, and it makes a big difference now because the baseline is so much higher. A lot of people have realized that it's important to have a great listing, to write well, to have good photos. Those used to be cheat codes back in the day. You just take professional photos and you automatically get huge occupancy gains. Not anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Passive income's a huge one. And I'm reminded kind of about the hustle side of all this that you have to know and you have to do, which of course is kind of the thing in all businesses, right? If you're not only innovating, you're also hustling, you're probably not going to get anywhere. And a lot of the expert opinions and the expert analysis and the LinkedIn posts and things that you see written in the industry today are really just kind of breaking it down for people anew. It was always kind of the case, but they're now just kind of codifying it and saying, hey, here's the bulleted step that you should know. I think about certain individuals who talk about seller financing, going out and buying property with other people's capital, looking for situations where someone wants to get out of a property and they're willing to finance it part of you, so you have, different creative financing. They talk about stacking. They talk about how to leverage one property's gains against the next one you're buying, about not falling in love with the property. Those things we all knew 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, those that were hustling and that were trying different ways and trying to stick their head in one door and that didn't work. It got slammed. As you stick your head in another door and it got slammed. So, yeah, I think now the industry has caught, the myths in the industry have caught up to that. And so that advice is now out there and everybody's talking about it, but that part of it was always the case. But you're right that people did have some cheat codes back in the day where if you found the right destination and, you could get people to, you could have your property book up 2 or 3 years in advance and I'm sending you a check from the HomeAway listing. You had some of that, but to the extent it was possible for, it's certainly not anymore.
Yeah, and it's become a lot more professional over time. You have a lot of people in the market that do this for a living, whereas when we started out, it was mostly hobbyists or people who had a second home and wanted to make a few bucks from it. Now there's a lot of people out there, especially in the past 2, 3, 4 years, this is their thing. And so they are hustling all the time. I think it would be good to also talk about how to get it right. That would be a little kind of interlude, what we see a lot of people who have it, and that ties into the people that we see that have started with OwnerRez, and we've seen them grown enormously. But how do those people start? What's a good way to get started with your first couple of properties, and what are the important things and processes and structures to set up?
Yeah, probably the one that stands out to me the most is saying no a lot early on. I think people get in, and we did this a little bit too much. We said yes a little bit too much early on. We want to build this empire, this portfolio. So we have 3, and then we ended up with 7, then 9, then what we have 12 eventually.
Yeah.
And that could be good if you're buying at the right time, buying from the right person, maybe have some creative financing, but you also lose a lot this way, and you get in over your head quickly this way, and you start not being able to make your payments on time, or you have a down market you got to deal with, and then you can't, make your payments. So learning to say no early on and realizing that buying in at a cheap price, very undervalued, I think. Very, just something people don't realize early on. There's a phrase in real estate, in traditional real estate sales, you made all your money when you bought it. Yeah. For people who are flipping and that sort of thing, renting. I think the same thing's true in vacation rentals, even though it's not really stated. There's a feeling that I could, even if I buy high, even if I have poor financing, if I can Airbnb it and make enough or break even for a while, then it'll all work out. I think more often than not, that's false. So learn to say no and just keep pushing forward. You'll find one that's a clear hell yeah, yes when you get there.
It's important to have that hell yeah. And that really stands out when you get that, because guests are going to see that too. It's also something where when expenses are something that is often missed. You have to calculate that in. You're going to have appliances go bad after time. You're going to have to replace the roof eventually. If you don't start considering those, it's really easy to write a spreadsheet that looks great and you didn't calculate that in. And that's the other side that I think is important to consider, is your time investment. If you run all the numbers and consider your time as free, if you're doing much more than a few hours a week, that's going to suck eventually. So you have to consider either paying yourself or paying somebody else and factor that in. Similarly, when you're setting up the property management company, you have to establish a good rate that will allow you to cover. You can't just go discount, because not only will you get not enough to cover your expenses and your staff, but sometimes you'll get the clients that you don't want. And that ends up being a kind of big situation across the board. When you go discount, sometimes it's a lot tougher.
Another thing, so my wife realized this with our whole Shenrent thing. There are owners who they want to make money and they want to have second properties, but they don't really want to be in hospitality, which is very interesting when you realize that. And it happens all the time. here's an example. Someone has a beautiful property. It's up on the side of a mountain. It's got a 60-mile overlook. It looks beautiful, and it sells itself, right? It's on Airbnb as one of the ones that sells itself. And so you're the PM or the co-host. You're managing it for the owner. And the first weekend, you get a really good booking, or the booking's finished, and it was a really good booking. It was like, $800,000 a night, good group. The owner calls you, incensed, Tuesday morning. They took a rug outside. You say, okay, and? Well, they took a rug outside by the fire. Is it damaged? Does it need to be paid for? No, but they shouldn't do that, and there should be some fine. All right, now this is a normal reaction. My wife and I have stories about courting the right owner as well as property, and here we're talking about hosting or being a PM, not just an owner yourself, managing on behalf of someone else. And you start to see where people really don't understand hospitality. They're not really seeing the big picture of providing an experience, and so letting go of the little things, not being attached to everything in the house, realizing things are going to break. Maybe don't buy a Picasso and put it on the wall. And it really sets apart certain owners very quickly. The ones who understand that and are willing to let go of a few dollars because something broke. Understanding, I want that 5-star review. I want that person to come back. There's a marketing long game here. I'm not just trying to get even on what they did to my house, my property.
Right.
And so that's an aspect I always find interesting. Knowing whether someone's going to be that owner, that hospitable owner early or not.
Yeah, and maybe that's something they don't know themselves. But that is a really great point. To be successful, myth or reality, to be successful, you have to love it. You have to want to do hospitality. You have to want to have that connection with guests. Maybe you can't be there every time to welcome them into your place, but you want to make them feel welcomed and, like you said, create that experience for them. That's what will make you successful.
There's another one. The fireworks lady, Katie and I used to talk about. There was a lady we knew who she would indignantly write in, hey, so I think my guests were setting off fireworks in the backyard during their stay. And, my wife's company, my wife's staff would say, did they damage something? Is the grass burnt? Was it too late? Were they bothering the neighbors? Like, no, but why would you do that? Why would you bring out fireworks? Right?
Was it the 4th of July?
Right.
I mean,
so you put yourself in the place of that guest, right? I mean, do you want to provide that experience? Are you more interested in the guest's happiness and experience than you are the fact that, you cleaned up some bottle rockets when they left? So yeah, right there, are you into hospitality or are you not? Right? Not really, like you said, not really a myth, but something you should figure out early on. So the guy I was talking about, the rug, a place called Shenandoah Manor, and it's beautiful. Charges like $1,200 a night. I've always wondered about this with him. Like, why? What is it about you where you just don't let? And he has like 4 of these places. Why are you going? Hey man, the toaster or there's a crack in the coffee carafe. Like something's wrong. And it's like a $10 item at Walmart. And I always wondered about that. Like why? And what's also, and I think it's a personality thing, this guy's actually an economist. So if anyone knows numbers and accounting and how to see the big picture, you would think it's him. But again, there's always like a need to get even. So I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's the need to get even. It's not.
I don't think it's about money.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a review. Not a review. We got a response. They tried to get our security deposit and everything. They're like, I have never been more disrespected in my house, blah, 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 blah.
This is a stay where you stayed? You were the guest?
Yes. We stayed. Yeah, our kids were a little messy, but, it was one of those kind of places where it was also spendy and like a $700 cleaning fee or something like that. And yeah, exactly that thing. Like they come in, and to their credit, they came back, they first requested, and I was going to dispute, but to their credit, like within a couple hours after, like it was their white hot anger, and then they came back and they're like, okay, it's actually, yeah, we spent some time cleaning, but that is also why sometimes it's better to have somebody else clean and not do it yourself, so you don't have to go through all of those emotions with, if it is your baby, if that's your one place and you have that reality. If you're running it as a business, You have to separate yourself a little bit.
I think it is somewhat apples and oranges because we're like back office software for the reviews, the accounting, all that stuff in the background. So I'm not sure. Would you say there's an angle?
We help people set up good processes. That's really where we've seen that the people that have started with us small and got used to the software and got used to the processes, we have some folks that every couple months we'll see add another property and then add another property. Once they have that structure running with everything automated, from the guest experience, from them booking to getting their check-in info, to getting everything, to getting the review request, and building that kind of virtuous cycle where you're just...
But does OwnerRez help you be a less picky, more long view, broader view owner, host, PM by what it does? I think it makes you better at either, because the picky guy who wants to be in on the security deposit, who wants to leave the bad review, we have so many automation tools and ways of, we reserve security deposits. We have a security deposit setting with Airbnb that you can turn on. There's so many ways in which, if you want to be a mean owner, you can be a mean owner very effectively with OwnerRez.
It lets you do that, but it also provides damage protection insurance, for example, which allows you to relax a little bit. Right. So there's a lot of things in there that are peace of mind for both you and for the guest. I think that's a big factor, knowing that, okay, this door code's only going to go out if I've got a signed renter agreement and everything's hunky-dory with the guest. Those things do help that owner that might be a little bit on edge sleep better.
But also, don't book again. I think it empowers both sides, honestly. So the guy who took the rug outside and dared to put a throw rug by the fire pit. So now he doesn't use OwnerRez directly. This is a person who a PM manages on behalf of. But how would automation help his ease of mind? You're right about the damage protection, for sure. If there's real damage, let it go, relax. Things are in place, there's automation running. In his particular case, he likes to show up physically at the property and be there to just inspect and see everything and bring his own peace of mind. So certain people have their ways. And it's probably a good thing someone manages on his behalf, because he could not communicate effectively with guests.
Right.
Or could he, because of automation? I can answer that question. I'm going back and forth here, but I'm trying to play it out.
Automation, but the other thing to keep in mind, right? That's a spectrum. If you're on site and interrupting your guests all the time, that's not good. But it's also not good when you're an absentee owner. Nobody improves the hospitality experience for a guest like an owner that actually stays in their own place and sees the little rough edges. I've done that. I remember back in the day, we used to make that mandatory for our properties. We would go stay in them and see, okay, this light switch needs to be moved over here. That appliance doesn't quite work. It needs to be replaced because it's frustrating. You don't see those unless you're actually there touching it. Even having a cleaning staff that has a checklist to look at this, that, and the other thing, they're probably not going to pick it up for a while. Even if they're doing thoroughly on that checklist, they're not going to try out every little thing like you will when you're there, especially if you have kids that are running around experimenting.
That's an excellent point, because now that you say that, it jogs my memory of conversations I've had with my wife and other PMs who talk about the problem owners, but those owners never get bad reviews when it comes to cleanliness, stuff not working, because they're on top of it.
Yeah.
So I guess the balance, if you're a PM or co-host, is try and find owners and inventory out there where the person's there doting on the property, loving on the property, but also loves hospitality and loves
hospitality, will give you the space that you need to deal with the guest, because that's what they pay you to do, after all.
So, tying a bow on it, getting back to square one, can you just buy an Airbnb and make millions of dollars and sit back and... I mean, the influencers say you can. No?
I think we've decided the answer is no. We've gone back and forth, and it used to be the case. You could make a lot of money. Now, as a business, you have to invest your time and effort end to end to make it work.
Right. So, what stories do you have? Let us know down in the comments. Got a crazy owner, got a co-host, a weird PM. Maybe you are an owner and your PM is crazy to you, whatever it is, in the comments, let us know.
Get the stories down there. Like, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.